Michelle Trachtenberg stepped into spotlight young. Hollywood handed her roles, but the real crossroads were quieter, and she navigated them on her own terms. Kirstie Alley built a career, lost the thread, found it again. She lived inside the public eye's cruelest moments and kept showing up. Michael Jackson. The pressure of being the biggest name on earth reshaped him. Success and reinvention were always for him the same desperate question. Donald Sutherland spent decades doing work that mattered before the world caught up and called him a legend. Tupac Shakur was raw signal, a voice that arrived at a crossroads between poetry and war, and never got to see which road won. Quincy Jones spent 60 years proving that genius is not a moment. It is a direction you choose, again and again, no matter who tells you the door is closed. She was told she was too emotional, too raw, too much. In 1983, a local Baltimore talk show had already tried to sand down Oprah Winfrey's edges, to make her into something cleaner, more palatable, more like Barbara Walters. It didn't work. The edges were the point, and when she flew to Chicago and took over a failing half-hour morning show called AM Chicago, nobody at WLS-TV was thinking about a revolution. They were thinking about ratings, about survival, about whether a black woman with a big personality and no filter could actually move a needle. She moved more than a needle. Within 1 month, AM Chicago went from last place to first. Within a year, it was expanded to a full hour. Within 2 years, it was renamed The Oprah Winfrey Show. But here is the thing that gets forgotten in all that acceleration. There was a moment, right in the middle of that ascent, when everything could have stopped, when Oprah herself almost walked away from television entirely. That moment was 1985. Steven Spielberg was casting The Color Purple. Oprah, who had never acted professionally, who had no film credits, no Hollywood connections, no agent with industry muscle, sent herself. She prayed, she fasted, she showed up to an audition in Wisconsin for a supporting role as Sophia. Quincy Jones, one of the film's producers, spotted her on television and advocated for her. Spielberg took a chance. And then, weeks later, while Oprah was at a weight loss camp in Wisconsin, something she has talked about publicly many times, she received a call telling her she had lost the role. The production had decided to go another direction. She ran on a track. She sang gospel music in her head. She told herself she would accept God's will. And then, the next day, she got another call. She was back in. Sophia was hers. That reversal is not just a Hollywood anecdote. It is the axis point around which the entire second half of Oprah Winfrey's life turns. Because The Color Purple, released in December 1985, did not just make her a movie star, it cracked open a question she had never publicly faced. What did she actually want? Television had found her. Film had called her, and the industry, for one brief moment, had the power to define her. She decided, over the following years, that she would define herself instead. Oprah Gail Winfrey was born on January 29, 1954, in Kosciusko, Mississippi, to an unmarried teenage mother, Vernita Lee, and a man named Vernon Winfrey, who would later become a foundational figure in her stability. Her early childhood was marked by poverty and rural isolation. She lived with her grandmother, Hattie Mae Lee, on a farm where she learned to read before she was 3 years old. Hattie Mae recognized something in her granddaughter and taught her scripture, setting in motion an almost instinctive relationship between Oprah and the spoken word. She moved to Milwaukee to live with her mother in her early years, then later to Nashville to live with her father Vernon after a period of significant trauma she has discussed openly in interviews. Sexual abuse suffered at the hands of relatives and family friends, beginning when she was 9 years old. Vernon Winfrey imposed strict structure, book reports, vocabulary lists, expectations. It was demanding. It was also, by Oprah's own account, what kept her alive. At 19, she was hired as a co-anchor at Nashville's WTVF-TV, becoming the youngest person and the first black woman to anchor the news there. She was enrolled at Tennessee State University at the time. Television didn't wait for her to finish her degree. It reached out and grabbed her. She eventually completed her degree, but the professional clock had already started. Baltimore came next. WJZ-TV hired her as a co-anchor and then moved her to a local talk show called People Are Talking, when the news format kept short-circuiting around her emotion. A story about a house fire would make her cry. An interview subject's pain would land on her face. Producers read it as weakness. What it actually was, what the audience in Baltimore immediately recognized, was contact. The rare sense that the person on the other side of the camera was actually there with you. She hosted People Are Talking in Baltimore for several years, and when the Chicago offer came in 1983, some people in her circle thought she was making a mistake. Chicago was a bigger market. The show was struggling. The competition was Phil Donahue, who practically invented the genre. Taking that job looked like walking into a fight you couldn't win. Oprah won it in 30 days. The Oprah Winfrey Show went into national syndication in 1986, the same year she received her Academy Award nomination for The Color Purple. Within a year of syndication, it was the highest-rated talk show in television history. By 1988, she had earned enough to purchase the production studio she worked in, renaming it Harpo Productions, Oprah spelled backward, becoming only the third woman in American history, after Mary Pickford and Lucille Ball, to own her own production studio. Ownership was not incidental. It was everything, because ownership meant that nobody could cancel her. Nobody could replace her with a cheaper, quieter, less complicated version. The show was hers. The building was hers. The decision about what went on air was hers. She understood something that most television personalities of her era did not. The camera was a tool, and the person who held the tool held the power. The 1,990 seconds tested that power in ways that were public, documented, and sometimes brutal. In 1992, the Oprah Winfrey Show shifted format, away from the tabloid-adjacent topics that had driven ratings in the late 80s, and toward what Oprah called change-your-life television. Critics were skeptical. Advertisers were nervous. Audiences were uncertain. The shift wasn't just aesthetic. It was a bet that viewers wanted something more substantive than sensationalism. Some competitors moved in the opposite direction, racing toward confrontation and shock. Oprah moved toward intention. The gamble paid off, though not immediately. and not without cost to ratings in certain demographic segments. Then came the beef trial. In 1996, while discussing mad cow disease on her show, Oprah said, live, on camera, that the discussion had stopped her cold from ever eating another burger. The Texas cattle industry sued her under state food disparagement laws, claiming her comments had caused a collapse in beef prices. The case went to trial in Amarillo, Texas, in 1998. Oprah relocated her show to Amarillo for the duration of the trial, continuing to broadcast while being simultaneously sued. She called it one of the most frightening experiences of her life. The jury found in her favor, but the legal exposure had been real. The chilling effect on public speech about food safety had been real. She fought it in the open, and she won in the open. What that trial revealed was something the magazine covers often missed. Oprah Winfrey is not a soft figure. She is a strategist who has learned to wear warmth so naturally that people sometimes confuse the warmth for the whole person. The whole person is considerably more complex. Her weight and her public relationship to her own body became one of the most documented and debated ongoing narratives of her public life. In 1988, she walked onto her own stage, pulling a wagon of fat representing the 67 pounds she had lost on a liquid diet. The audience went wild. The moment became iconic. The weight came back, and back again. And the public followed every cycle with an intimacy that she has described in various interviews as both humanizing and dehumanizing. Decades later, her candid discussion of using GLP-1 medications as a tool in managing her weight reframed the entire conversation, not as failure, but as an ongoing, medically engaged process. She spoke about it publicly in part, she said, because the shame spiral around weight had caused real harm, and she was done participating in that shame on herself or on others. In 2011, the Oprah Winfrey Show ended its 25-year run. The finale, a 2-episode event, drew tens of millions of viewers. Oprah used her final episode not for a clip reel, not for celebrity tributes. She sent those guests to the prior episodes, but for a direct address. She talked about the purpose of the show, about what she believed her role had been. It was a sermon without a pulpit. It was exactly what she had always been. The same year, she launched OWN, the Oprah Winfrey Network, in partnership with Discovery Communications. The launch was, by most industry accounts, rocky. Ratings were disappointing. Critics questioned the programming. There was genuine speculation, reported in outlets including the New York Times and the Hollywood Reporter, that the network might not survive. Oprah moved her offices to Los Angeles. She took on the role of CEO, in addition to chairman. She greenlit new programming, including a partnership with Tyler Perry that anchored the network's primetime lineup. OWN turned its first profit in 2013, 2 years after launch. It has remained profitable since. The near death of OWN is not a footnote. It is the second major turning point in her career, the one that came after she had already won, after she had already proven herself, after the conventional story would have been over. She was in her late 50s, running a cable network from a new city, managing a company she had bet enormous personal capital on, and refusing to let it fail. That refusal is the shape of her. Her philanthropic record is specific and documented. The Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls, opened in South Africa in 2007, has graduated hundreds of students, many of whom have gone on to university. She has given more than $400 million to educational causes. She funded scholarships at Morehouse College and other historically black institutions. These are not press release figures. They are documented in filings, in institutional records, in the lives of students who are now in the world. In 2018, she delivered a speech at the Golden Globes that sent a wave through the culture so significant that serious political speculation followed about a presidential run. She addressed it directly in subsequent interviews, saying she did not feel called to run for office. Some journalists and political observers took that as a door left open. She has consistently closed it. Her friendship with Barack and Michelle Obama, her 2008 campaign trail appearance for Barack Obama in Iowa and South Carolina, events documented extensively by journalists present, cost her something. Research by economists Robert and John Gerber, published in a study cited by multiple outlets, estimated she may have lost around 1 million viewers over her endorsement. She made the endorsement anyway. She has spoken about that choice in terms of moral obligation, not political calculation. The book club, the magazine, the XM Sirius radio channel, the film productions, including Beloved in 1998, Selma in 2014 as a producer, and The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks in 2017. Each of these is a different expression of the same underlying drive, to put stories that matter in front of people who need them. She appeared as a producer on the Broadway production of The Color Purple. The full circle of that, the audition and the call and the reversal and the decades, compressed into a single credit on a playbill, is the kind of detail that a novelist would be accused of manufacturing. What is the through line? What connects the little girl reading scripture on a farm in Mississippi to the woman running a cable network from Los Angeles in her 60s? It is not luck. It is not likability, though she has both. It is the specific and documented refusal to let other people's definitions of what she was supposed to be outlast her own definition of what she actually was. Every time the industry, the culture, the legal system, the ratings, or the scale tried to tell her who she was, she heard it, sat with it, and then did something else. The story of Oprah Winfrey is not over. It is not a monument. It is not a museum exhibit. It is a living argument, still being made, that the most dangerous thing you can give a person is the ability to speak directly to millions of people without anyone else's permission, and that the right person with that ability can change the temperature of a culture. She is still talking. We are still listening.